Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Unorthodox Vegan. My name is Sean Gold, and this episode, number 56, we're going to be making pumpkin pie. We're going to be doing that from scratch, including the crust and the whipped topping. So it's a lot of stuff involved in that. I've got a fresh pie pumpkin. They're a special type of pie pumpkin. I've got sugar, white sugar, brown sugar. I have got cornstarch. I've got flour. I've got salt. I've got cinnamon, ginger, cloves, nutmeg. I have for the whipping. I have some aquafaba. I have leftover from a can of chickpeas. I have some cream of tartar for that. I also have sugar for that and vanilla for that. That's going to be for the whipped topping. For the pumpkin pie contents, we'll be making using coconut milk, coconut cream, plus sugar, plus all of these spices. We got that. And for the crust, we'll be using a coconut oil, using a vegan margarine. It says vegan butter in the recipe, but vegan margarine works just fine, as well as the flour and sugar. And that's about it. It's a lot of work, a lot of stuff. We're going to be doing 3 recipes in one today, but it's all part of making a pumpkin pie. I have a lot of stuff to do, but the first thing I'm going to be doing is cutting up this pumpkin, chopping it into quarters, cleaning out the seeds and stuff, and then throwing that in the oven. I'm going to roast it, and that's going to take some time. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to be making the pie crust itself. And I'm going to be making 2 pies, and I should have tons of filling. I probably have enough with this size of pumpkin to make 4 or 5 pies, but I'm just going to do 2 today, and we'll see how that goes. So that's what we're doing. I'll be back in a minute when I clean up some of this mess, and I'll be cutting this. I'm not going to have to show you this, but I'm just going to cut this, as I said, pumpkin in half in quarters, clean it out, and throw it in the oven. That'll be doing, and then we'll start working on the pie crust. Okay, back in a bit. Okay, as you can see, I took the pumpkin seeds out of the pumpkin, and I'm going to go put those in a toaster oven, roast them for about 15 minutes at about 400 degrees. And I do have in the oven, I don't know if you can see this by the angle, but I do have in the oven that pumpkin. I had cut it, quartered it, peeled it, or not peeled it, but took out the flesh, the seeds, and the little bit of rough stuff in there, and it's been roasting for a little bit while I'm getting stuff organized. So that's all taking place. Now we're going to make the crust. Now the crust does require some. It's very simple, easy to do. It needs some shortening, and I'm using coconut oil for the shortening because I don't have shortening. I'm going to be using vegan margarine instead of vegan butter. It says to keep it cold, but I found that when I did this before, the coconut oil seemed to do the work. So all we're going to do is we're going to just going to add the flour. Put in a cup and a half of flour, and we're not going to use a blade. We're going to use it's called an S thing. This is specifically for doing things like pastry stuff. So we can put in a cup and a half of flour in there. And get that in there. Cup and a half. And a quarter cup of shortening, and that's going to be the vegan or the coconut oil. So I'm putting that in there. I already measured that out, almost at the end of that jar, and I had another jar, and I opened it up and said I didn't need it. I'm going to put that in there, and I'm going to be putting in putting in some salt, which is a sugar, 1 teaspoon of sugar, and a quarter teaspoon of salt. Now it says to mix this up in advance, just in a blade, but I'm just going to put this all together because it's pretty simple to do, easy to do. And putting in just making sure I got this right, cold vegan butter, and shortening it, and putting in a quarter cup of this, I'm putting in margarine, as I said, vegan margarine, and putting that in. And that's going to be the basis of this. So that's all that's going in here. Get this stuff all out of the way. And I will be adding in 2 to 3 tablespoons of cold water, depending on what's needed to get this thing to firm up. We'll just see how that goes. So let's just give this thing a zap. Get the camera over here a little closer so you can see what's going on. All right, hopefully you can see this. Let's give this thing a pulse a little bit. Now we want this to get into little balls. So we're going to get like little the old kind of shapes. Ice water. So I've got, it says 2 to 3 tablespoons. It doesn't have to be really ice water. I'm just going to have cold water. And we're going to be putting in, let's start with 3 to 4 tablespoons, it says. So let's put in, and it says to drizzle it in while it's running. So we're going to get going. Take that thing out. And that looks nice. It's about the right chunkiness, and I don't want to over process it, over mix it, but I just want to make sure it's blended together. And I don't know if you can hear me because I got my microphone on. Don't have it on. Okay, let's try this better. So just mixing this all together, blending it. And that looks marvelous. That looks like a really good mix. It's about the right texture and everything. So that's going to be great for the crust. Let me just get organized here, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I have lightly floured this board surface here. I'm taking out the dough out of the processor bowl. And I don't want to over process it, overwork this because I don't want it to get, I want it to stay flaky. This is supposed to be a very flaky dough. So we're going to go with that. I'm going to roll this into a ball. Put this into a ball. Don't want a lot of extra flour in, as I said. Just want to get it into a, don't want it to stick to the surface. And so I've got a nice little ball there. And get a little bit more off of there. Get that into that. Oops. And I'm going to get out my rolling pin. So rolling pin, got the ball. I'm going to roll this out into a roughly 12-inch diameter, whatever the size is, it's going to fit your pie crust or pie shell. Fix the edges a little bit because I don't want this to fall apart. Now all right, have this out. Now to get this onto there, it takes a little bit of work. One of the suggestions was, and I read this in this one recipe, it was a wonderful recipe I found online, was to use the rolling pin as a means to lift up or to carry the pie crust. Just going to roll this around it, picking up the pieces that stick behind a little bit. I don't want those to fall off. I want to keep that all together. And get my pie shell here, there, and start to now unroll it gently. And we'll fix up the edges in a bit. So there's no panic about that being perfect. And there we go. So that's there. Now it's not, obviously it's not perfect, so we're just going to fix that up around the edges. And just making that edge just a little bit nicer looking. So that's all I'm doing. Make sure it's in there, get the right thickness around there. Filling in some gaps. I said you can just do a little touch up here. And there we go. That's pretty much it. And there we have our pie shell. Now, we don't have to pre-bake that. What we're going to do is we're going to put the pie filling into it. So I'm just going to put this into the fridge for now and have that. I'll put that away. Meanwhile, let's take a look at those pumpkin seeds. They have roasted probably for about 8 minutes. I did lightly oil them, put a little bit of I have a oil mister where you put in a little bit of oil and you pump it up, and then I put a tiny little bit of salt over top of it. And these, I'll give a taste test. Oh, better than throwing these things up. So nice. That's great. All right, I gotta wait for the pumpkin to roast in the oven. It's almost ready. I'll take it out shortly, and I'll puree it, and we'll see how you do all that stuff. Back in a bit. And welcome back. Sorry, I had a little technical problem with my microphone. Not sure why, but anyway, I have got that resolved, I believe. Anyway, I've taken out the pumpkin out of the oven. It is roasted, nicely roasted. I am going to peel it. I'm going to cut it up, cube it, peel it, and then blend it. And so I've got a nice creamy filling, and then I can use that for multiple pies. So that's what I'll be doing in a little bit. And then we'll be actually making the pie filling and making that pie. So let me just cut all that up, skin it, and get it all ready and put it in a blender, and we'll mix it all up back in a bit. As you can see, I have the pumpkin in this container here. What I did is I weighed the container, then took the flesh out of the pumpkin, and made sure I had 15 ounces, the equivalent of a can of pumpkin puree. And I'm going to dump that into the food processor right now, and I'm going to puree it. I'm going to turn it into, I could do it in a blender, that would might make sense, but if we're already using this, I want to turn this into more of a puree, and I'll be doing that, and then I'll be adding on the rest of the ingredients to make the pumpkin pie filling. So I just want to get that. Well, I'm not having the best of luck with my computer today, and with the camera equipment and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of, and the microphone's kind of hosed up. Anyway, I just recorded, and then it wiped it all out. So I just recorded the mixing of all of the ingredients in the pumpkin pie filling. So it was the pumpkin pie, the pumpkin itself, blended, mixed that up, processed that in, mixed in the some coconut cream. So I mixed in a can of coconut cream, just a cup of coconut cream, but the heavy cream, the white stuff is opposed to the liquid in the bottom. This is a 24% fat coconut cream, so it gives you the most, I think, of the actual thick cream that you want, that I like to have. To put that in, plus I put in some sugar, brown sugar, half a cup of brown sugar, quarter cup. Now let's get this right. Let's get this right. Half a cup brown sugar, half a cup white sugar. I put in a teaspoon of cinnamon, a teaspoon of ginger, a half a teaspoon of nutmeg, an eighth of a teaspoon of cloves. Don't overdo the cloves because it's a powerful taste. That cup of coconut cream, I did weigh the pumpkin, make sure I had like 15 ounces. So when I pureed that, I put that in there. And then 3 tablespoons of cornstarch and a half teaspoon of salt. That's all of the stuff I did. I poured that into the pie crust and then put it in the oven. I said, everything is great. And I came back and the computer just said, okay, it blew up Clipchamp, Microsoft Clipchamp, and said, didn't record. No, so it's already in the oven. I'm just going to walk you over to it so you can see that in the oven is that pie itself, and it turned out just lovely. Or at least the filling did. So that's all cooking. It's baking in there for an hour at 350 degrees. I want that crust to turn a little bit golden. I'll let that cook for the hour. I've got the timer on that, and when we come back and I take it out, I'm going to make a little bit of whipped cream using aquafaba, sugar, a little bit of what's it called? A little bit of cream of tartar. Cream of tartar gets a little bit, makes it easier to get the actual aquafaba whipped up. So I'm going to be putting in a little bit of that and some vanilla in that. Anyway, we'll watch how that's done, and we'll make up a piece of pumpkin pie. My wife doesn't like the cream itself, so I won't be putting the cream over the whole pie, but just over one piece. And I'll save the rest for me for later. Anyway, back in a bit. The heck, I'm going to use a half cup of aquafaba. Now this is the liquid that comes off the top of the chickpeas, and I find that there's one chickpea that made it in there. I thought I heard a lump sound, so I'm just going to put that away, compost, and put that in there. So I've got the half cup of aquafaba. I'm going to put in an eighth of a teaspoon of cream of tartar. This just helps cause it to actually whip up. So I'm just going to put in a half of a quarter teaspoon, so that'd be an eighth of a teaspoon of the cream of tartar. And I am going to, let's see, just make sure I got this right. That's cream of tartar. That's also the whipping process with hand mixer. Start mixing, and then once it's then you're going to add in. Okay, right. So that's what I'm going to first do. I'm going to get this mixed up. I'm going to do it at a small, lower speed until it starts to whip up. And when it starts to get foamy, I'll go to a much higher speed. And then once I get into the peaks, then I'll be putting in the vanilla and the sugar. So and then I'll be doing some more whipping and making sure it gets even stronger peaks. So this will be a few minutes, so just bear with me. So we've been going for about going for about 3 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes. And as it says, stiff peaks will form after about 3 or 4 minutes. So that's perfect. Now we're going to add in a half a cup to 3/4 of a cup of icing sugar, or powdered sugar, it's called. I'm going to go with a half cup. Again, well, my wife doesn't like the sugar, so I'm going to go with half a cup. So I'm going to go with half a cup of powdered sugar and a teaspoon of vanilla. Now, for those of you who have never had aquafaba-based whipped cream, it is delicious. And no, you don't get much of a flavor of the aquafaba itself, although it has to me it has a pleasant flavor to it, but you don't get a lot from it. So just don't worry about that. And there's so much, with that half cup of powdered sugar and the teaspoon of vanilla, there's enough flavor in there already. That more than compensates for the flavor you're going to get from the little bit of flavor that you get from the chickpeas. So I'm going to put that in there. I'm just going to mix it in just a little bit. I don't want to get powdered sugar all over the place. In the air end, that is. And I'm going to whip this up another high speed for about a minute until it's nice and firm, and then that's going to be perfect for putting on top of the pie. I won't put it on right now because the pie is still in the oven, but I'll put it in the fridge. Actually, I'm going to throw it in the freezer, and just to keep the peaks fresh, and take it out when the pie is ready. Okay, back in a bit. The cake. All right, here's the big reveal. The pie has been in the oven for 1 hour. I have. I'm going to take it out, and it's hot. Oh, and it's heavy. Okay, and that pie looks absolutely delicious. It's got that beautiful golden crust. It's it looks delightful. It looks like the texture is right. It's a little bit soft right now. It needs to cool down for about 30 minutes at room temperature before we serve it. And so once it does that cooling down, then I will bring out the I'll cut off a slice, bring out the whipped cream, put it on there, and we'll do a taste test. Back in about half an hour. All right, we're ready for the big reveal. So I have taken taken a slice out of the pie. I have put on a little bit of the whipped cream topping that I had in the freezer that I made earlier, that I showed you. And now we're going to do a little taste test. Here we go. By the way, the recommendation is to have the pie sit in the fridge for 4 hours. I had it outside because it was cool enough outside. I thought I'd have it outside for a couple of hours. So it's not quite cool enough yet, but it's mostly cool. It's pretty good. Sounds good, but it looks great. Oh, I gotta tell you, if you like pumpkin pie, this is awesome. It is just delicious. It's so light. It is so tasty, and it is all homemade. Everything from the pumpkin pie filling, the pie itself used from a pumpkin, the crust, which is delicious, and the whipped cream. It's amazing. I'm just going to show you the crust again. So crust is got a nice, just a nice color to it. Oops, and it's just light, flaky, vegan. It's amazing. Everything about this is just delicious. So that's it. If you'd like to reach out, if you'd like to get a hold of me, please reach me at my email address. That's vrcompanions@gmail.com, shown up here. And please follow me on my YouTube channel. That's www.youtube.com/@the_unorthodox_vegan. Until next time, have yourself a great day. Bye for now.